Hi guys, it's Meg, and I'm going to show you how to build 3 dinosaur statues today, which were designed by none other than you guys. So thank you all who submitted a statue design in my recent dinosaur statue contest. It was a huge help to me and I loved seeing all of your designs. I loved all of them, but in this video, I'm just going to show you how to build the top 3. We're going to start off with the easiest one and work our way up to the more advanced one. If you want to skip to the one you want to build or just build them all, it's entirely up to you. Let's go ahead and start. Yes, I made fun little intros for each one, just for this video. But we are building a Brachiosaurus skeleton by Tiggertoxalot for this first one. And we'll have to measure up 9 blocks from the ground to get ourselves started. Now this statue doesn't require as many blocks since it is a skeleton, so it's kind of easier, but it does have more floating blocks that will require a little bit of extra measuring. Moving 1 block out from the middle layer, we'll add on layer 2. Most of these blocks will be floating and most of them will be stairs. The top stairs that you'll see along the back are going to be facing towards the center and upside down. And then the bottom ones will be facing outward and upside down. I'll zoom in underneath just a little bit so you can kind of tell which direction they're facing, but once you have it down, you should be able to do the rest pretty easily. Moving around to the left side, it's going to be the exact same as the right, except it doesn't have the one slab for the tail. Now, starting layer 3 will actually be doing the legs and connecting all of those rib cages. So it's a pretty simple statue. This is going to be the extent of the width of it. You will need a couple placeholders for the ribs since they are 1 layer out from the previous layer and are connected on the corners. On the other side, it's going to be just about the same thing aside from the different positions of the legs, and there will be another slab added to the tail. That's all we have to do for the body, but we're going to finish off the tail by curving it around. So this is going to be a top view of what the tail looks like, but each of those blocks is representing a slab, and we're going to build down 1/2 slab at a time. Hopefully that makes sense, so you're going to go down 1/2 slab for each block, and by doing that all the way down, the last block should be located directly on the ground. And there's your Brachiosaurus skeleton, perfect for a museum exhibit. Another excellent design is this Megalosaurus by Oxnox. Thank you so much for such a great design, and here is how we're going to build it. We're going to start off with the middle again, of course, and we're going to be measuring up 7 blocks this time to get ourselves started. Now this is a rather large area for a layer, so if you have trouble counting these blocks, I would recommend building out the edge blocks first and making the perimeter, and then fill it in. It does make counting a lot easier since you don't have to count the full rows of blocks. Just make sure it's 100% correct before moving on. On layer 2, again, I would recommend going around the edges and finding those first before filling it in. If you want to conserve blocks, let's say you're building this in survival, you could even reuse some of those middle blocks that are getting covered and just hollow it out as you go, because you're not going to need all those blocks in the center. I didn't actually show a hollow diagram for this one, but you could very easily do that by just reusing the blocks you previously placed. And the left side is of course basically the same thing, just don't forget those 2 blocks for the feet. Again, any parts that are going to be covering the center blocks entirely, you could just mine those up and reuse them, if you're in survival of course. Let's move on to layer 3. We'll mostly be doing the arms and the legs on this layer. Same as always, I would highly recommend just to do the outline first. Also, if you ever have trouble counting, it always helps to just look at it in relation to the previous layer and then see how far it extends past. I don't know if that made much sense, but that's what I think of sometimes as I create them. It does help me just look at it in relation to the previous layer. The right side on layer 3 has a little more going on. We do have the arm and the leg like the other side, but we also have a section of the tail and the head to add. I think this next layer is also pretty self-explanatory. We're just adding on to the previous layer. This is also the last layer where we will be adding a few more blocks to the left side. Once we have those in place, the rest of this dinosaur is going to be built on the right, as we finish off the head and the tail. Now where the head is, you're not going to be able to see the previous layer as much, but you're basically building directly on top of it, which is why you won't see it in the grid. On layer 6, we'll be doing the face a little more on the dinosaur. These two stair blocks will be the eye sockets, and then on the tail we're going to have a stair that's going to be facing towards you. On layer 7, again, it's pretty self-explanatory, and pretty much the same as before. Once we get to layer 8, these last two quartz stairs for the teeth are actually going to be corner stairs to kind of round it off and make it more of a complete shape. On the last few layers, we'll just be adding onto the tail and finishing that off. So we don't have tons of blocks to place from now on, and these first few stairs are going to be facing towards you, and they'll turn again once we get to the final layer. And one final thing we have to do is on these squares where the feet are, we're going to place two stairs onto either side of the edges with a slab on the corner. And that finishes up the Megalosaurus. He is terrifying, but also rather cute, don't you think? I absolutely love this last design by Romer. It is a little more complicated, so we're going to be building it a little differently from the ground up. And yes, the layers are going to be a little more complicated with all these different shapes. It's the easiest way for me to show you what's going on from a top view. This layer shows the beginnings of the feet, and since this dinosaur is standing on an angle, the two sections on the top left will be the back feet, and the two on the bottom right will be the front feet. And if you see stair blocks that have a white highlight around them, that will mean that those are upside down. So those two stairs will be facing towards the left on this layer. So on the next layer, it does start to look a little more crazy. The blocks are spread out all over the place. We do have those three floating blocks on the far left. That's going to be part of the tail that's starting. But the best way to add on to the layers is just to add on to where you know for sure the previous layer is. So in this case, I'm going to start from the blocks where I know exactly where they need to be placed, and then from that point I can measure if I have to get all the other blocks positioned correctly. This next layer isn't too bad either. We just have a few blocks to place around. I'm going to start with the tail blocks because I know for sure where those need to go, and the rest of them are pretty easy to figure out. Just take it slow, don't try to rush these because it's really easy to make mistakes. I made several while trying to build out these layers. And the upside down stairs on this layer, just so you know, are probably going to be facing away from the adjacent blocks. Okay, hold on. Pause the video. I know that this layer can look a little bit intimidating. I made several mistakes myself when trying to build it, but it's not as bad as it looks. Alright, continue. I'm going to evaluate this layer carefully. I'm going to build the full blocks first. So I'll find all the full blocks first, and then I'll add on the stairs and then the slabs. But I wouldn't try to do them all at once because it does get really confusing. I had to build this several times before I finally figured out that was the best way to do it. And yes, most of the stairs on this layer are highlighted, which means they will be upside down. In fact, there are only 2 stairs that will not be upside down. The next layer looks a little less confusing, but it still can be a little tricky, even just getting the stairs placed correctly. I'm going to do the same thing again and start with the full blocks and then do the stairs and the slabs. This is a more advanced statue and you have been fairly warned, so this is going to take a while to do, especially in survival. Like always, the stairs are pretty much going to be facing away from the block they're adjacent to. The 2 stairs that will be right above the back right leg, those will be back to back, and then the stair on the opposite side, it's upside down of course, but it will be facing towards the right. I wanted to point that one out since there are two adjacent blocks and you can't tell which way it needs to go. So it's going to be facing this way. We have one more large layer like this. The only really different thing about this one is the two stone slabs that will make the full block on the head. If you made it this far, congratulations! We're almost done. Just this and one more layer to go. On this layer we have no upside down stairs whatsoever. All of those stairs will be facing outward from whatever block they're adjacent to, and the rest of it is actually pretty easy compared to the previous layers. The last layer is the easiest of them all, with just 3 blocks to finish off the head. And there is one Triceratops dinosaur complete. Granted, that was a lot harder to make than the others, but it's such a beautiful statue, I think the extra effort was worth it. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you again to those of you who helped me design these statues. I loved seeing your creativity, and being able to do a tutorial on that was actually a lot of fun. If you do have any other ideas for a tutorial, feel free to comment that below and I'll consider it. But that's all for now. I'll see you some other time. Bye!